Yo, hey guys, how's it going? Let's just check that everything's running okay. Cool. Okay, just checking that we're all up and running okay. Cool, yep, we're all good there. Cool, and we'll just wait a couple of minutes, see if anyone rolls in. If anyone's in the chat right now, feel free to say hey. I'm just setting up a couple of things here, just for a bit of a smoother running of this session, so just bear with me. Cool. Right, I'm gonna just have a look at this. Right, let's have a look. Okay. Oh, it's good. Got my coffee. It's a good old Dow Egberts. The best of the best in my own personal opinion. It's been a while since I drank it, so yeah, it's very nice to be drinking a bit of Dow Egberts right now. I'm just setting up a couple of slides just to basically split off. I suppose you call them like sections, to split off like the sections of this live stream, essentially, because I'm going to have this content exist on YouTube afterwards. So for me, it's just an easier way to split things up chapter-wise, just to use some like presentation style, like kind of sections, if that makes sense. Just creating them quickly on Figma, and then we'll kind of jump in and just also allowing time for people to potentially join in. But all good if not. This is just kind of like more of like an informative session, just running through the overall sort of structure and why I'm actually doing the project, and a couple of other things as well. Just to kind of get people clued up on what I'm actually doing here, essentially. So yeah. Cool. Also listening to I'm going to find a way to get what's playing on here, but I'm just listening to a royalty-free lo-fi for Twitch and YouTube streamers playlist. It's a very long name, very long-winded. Just found it on Spotify. I kind of tested it out the other day, and I didn't get any copyright claims or anything. So I'm guessing that, hopefully the claim that it's no DMCA is true, but we will have to see. We'll have to see if I get any strikes on Twitch. It's fine on YouTube. I know that I've tested it there. So, but yeah, they've got some nice tunes on here. Pretty chill. So, don't mind that. I just want to check the chat's up and running. Let me just type a little something here. Just type a little like "yo guys" kind of greeting. Make sure it's coming through. Okay, yeah, we're all good. My Nightbot is calling me user. It should be calling me by my name, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know actually. Anyways, that's working, so that's all good. I don't know how to clear it though, so we'll just have to bear with that for now. But it's all good. I mean, if it hides the screen too much, maybe someone in the chat or in the comments just let me know, and I can sort of try and fix that for next time. Cool. Right, let's get on with this, because I don't want to spend too long on this. I want to kind of kick this off and get going. But it would just be easier structure-wise if I can just create a quick couple of right. So cool. Cool. Nice. Okay. Let me. Cool. Gosh, I am having an awful time typing right now. Okay. I mean, I can show you guys what I'm doing, but it's very boring. I'm literally just duplicating some cards and just putting text on them. So yeah, it's nothing that interesting. I will be done in just a moment though. I'm just on the last few. And this will just make things a lot kind of easier to, yeah, from a structural point of view. I just kind of like the whole presentation thing. Just it helps me as well in terms of direction. I actually know what I'm gonna go on to next, kind of thing. Because I just go off on tangents all the time and get like lost in my own world, which is obviously like that's fine to an extent, but I also want to keep this like kind of to time. I haven't got any strict rules around it per se, but kind of aiming to keep these streams like sort of somewhere in the region of 1 to 2 hours. I think I'll try and refrain from not going over 2 hours, but then again that depends on the session. Maybe, you know, if we get like a lot of people in and get a lot of feedback and contributions going, then, you know, maybe it can go on for longer. But, you know, as for just kind of like a baseline sort of number, I'd say, yeah, 2 hours I'll try and kind of keep to be like the maximum. Like with this, I don't know how long it's going to go on for. I'm guessing it won't be up to 2 hours, just because I'm not like I'm not actually going into like full depth with things. I mean, in terms of tooling, we're going to look at that fairly extensively, but I don't think that will be sort of going on for too long. So right, and then cool, and the last one. Oops. Oh, damn, my bad. Okay, I'm gonna just copy that over to here. Lovely. And that should run quite smoothly, right? We good? Lovely. Yes. Yes, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Cool. So obviously you can see my overview here. That's fine because, yeah, this is just kind of to help me. kind of just tick off things as I go. So I kind of find it easier doing things this way. Just realised as well my mug matches my hat, which is nice. Okay, so yeah, okay, here we go. So about me. Let's just quickly just check back into the chat. Have we got anyone in? Just make sure this is muted. Yeah, apologies as well if you heard a bit of like weird delay kind of stuff going on in the at the beginning whilst it had the be right back stuff going on. Just because I forgot to mute my Twitch and I had that on because I was just checking to make sure everything was running okay. So yeah. Right, okay. I'm going to jump into this now. I also need to, I feel like I need to adjust myself slightly. Okay, lovely. I'm going to actually potentially prop up my keyboard. Just got a standard Microsoft keyboard. Kind of does the job, but like I do miss my Mac keyboard. I was much more successful at touch typing like with that, but I've been finding it difficult with this one. It's a bit clunky for me, but it does the job. So, oh, that's how we mute. Okay, cool. All right, no, we have got 2 people in here. Okay. Cool. So, yeah, let me grab this screen and let's get going. Cool. So, about myself. So yeah, I am a self-taught developer. Sort of more focused on front-end technologies. At the moment, I've been coding for about just under a year now, so it's coming up to a year. It was just one of those things, you know, it was the start of the first pandemic and I was on furlough, had a lot of time to kind of think about, you know, future career paths and sort of something else I could get myself into. I work in retail. And yeah, I mean, I'd seen, you know, this job roles because I was looking for more remote jobs and I saw developer come up a lot and UI, UX designers and that kind of thing. And I thought, okay, you know, these look pretty cool, you know, seem fairly creative. For anyone that doesn't know me, music has always kind of been my main thing. It's my biggest hobby. So yeah, I've always been towards the creative side. And so, you know, in terms of like thinking for like, you know, a stable job or, you know, next career move, I always had it in the back of my head. I wanted to do something creative. So when I saw coding, I was like, yeah, that, you know, it seems technical, but it does seem like there's some creative stuff. And so, you know, I was curious. I actually looked at UI and UX first, actually, funnily enough. And I took like half a course in that. Yeah, just found this course from this guy. I think his name was Dan Scott, I think. Yeah, he runs like a YouTube channel called Bring Your Own Laptop, and it just seemed like quite a straightforward course, just outlining what the differing roles of like UI, UX, and product design are. And yeah, I kind of got into that a little bit. You know, I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I was kind of like swayed a bit. I saw kind of this whole web development thing, and I saw he had a course on that because I was obviously interested in that as well. And then I thought, you know what, halfway through the course I was like, I really want to try this out. So I was like, okay, let me try half of this course and then I will kind of see where I'm at. And I tried half of that course as well. I got to the halfway point, and I was like, yeah, I want to carry on with this. Like, this is pretty damn cool. Nothing quite like, you know, that first Hello World. But yeah, kind of since then, it was just kind of a case of just learning, you know, taking in as much as I can. I sort of learned HTML, CSS first, of course. You know, I kind of got quite, yeah, I kind of feel like I built a good foundation for HTML and CSS. Like, I kind of spent like a while going over things and making sure like I understood what semantic HTML was, and understanding the quirks of CSS. Everyone knows about that display, centering that div and all of these different things. But more about things like cross-browser compatibility and diving a bit deeper into CSS. And I think that helped me a lot actually now in terms of sort of building apps. It's always, there's always things that pop up and there's always issues, that I have to kind of get through. But I feel like that foundational knowledge has kind of helped me to get through some of those hurdles. So that was kind of the first couple of months, HTML, CSS, and then obviously JavaScript came along and spent a while going over the fundamentals. I wanted to get into React pretty much like straight away. It's funny, I'd actually heard about React like a while before I even really understood what web development was, and I think this was just a long time ago. I somehow stumbled upon it. I can't remember how, but it's in my head. I was like, no, I remember there was a time I came to looking at React and I didn't understand what it was because I didn't understand what HTML was. I didn't understand what CSS was, like not fully. So I just remembered like there was this kind of click, and I was like, was it meant to be React? And also, anyone that doesn't know me, I am a React enthusiast. I love React, and I love pushing the boundaries of like what React can do. And at some later point on this, on these channels, I suppose Twitch and YouTube, I will be, I'll be sort of streaming the process of building a project that I have shared it now. Yeah, I kind of shared it. I haven't shared it like officially because I'm still kind of working on it, but I built a smart mirror basically using Electron as a framework. It's just Electron running on a Raspberry Pi displayed behind a monitor. It doesn't make much sense. You kind of have to see it to understand how it works, but it basically leverages React as the front end framework, and it takes advantage of like client-side routing to give it that real app-like feel. And yeah, it's probably the coolest project I've like kind of worked on. So I'm very excited to share it once I can just do like a little bit more work on it, and once this project is finished as well and complete. So anyway, try not to go off on a tangent. So about me, yeah. So kind of wiring back into that story, I did end up getting into React about half a year ago now, maybe a little bit longer. Yeah, maybe slightly longer. And yeah, I mean, since then I've just been building projects using React, just trying to really sort of improve my React skills and general coding skills, trying to improve, my code quality, writing maintainable code, code that's scalable frameworks, and trying to sort of build those. I'm very much, I think my main interest lies in like building UIs and building scalable UI frameworks. I'm nowhere near an expert in it. I'm just very interested in it. I'm very interested in design systems. Very interested in the user-facing kind of parts of the application. And we'll be looking at kind of some aspects of design systems and how that's influenced the way I'm kind of working with this project at some later point in this as well, which will be pretty cool. So yeah, that's kind of my main interest, and also accessibility as well. I'm big on that, and yeah, that's kind of been something that I've cared about sort of since quite early on with coding actually. I've always had this kind of thing that whatever I go into, I always want to kind of maintain the ethics and sort of look for where, people are just doing the right thing. And I feel like with accessibility, like all of its complexity aside, because I understand, that isn't just something that you can, you can't just turn around and make a site accessible. There's a whole process that you have to follow. There's different contexts. With some sites, sometimes, it's a completely different solution than it would be to like a different site. And, there has to be some empathy around that. But I just feel at a fundamental level, everybody, deserves. I mean, everybody should be able to use the internet freely, and they should be able to use people with an impairment or disability should be able to use it. With essentially the same functionality as able users, and so that's something I've always held dear to me. And so, like any project I'm working on, it's always a consideration, and this project is just another opportunity for me to learn more about it, because I would still say that I'm very early on in my understanding of like the actual implementation of accessibility into applications, especially JavaScript applications. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we can kind of go with that as well. And there'll be loads of things. I'm going to kind of come onto that anyway in more depth. But yeah, that's basically me. That's kind of mainly about me. I mean, outside of code as well, just to kind of give you a bit of background. Like I said, like music's my main hobby, so I like to write music, compose music, make beats, write songs, all of that stuff. I love listening to music. I also like to create playlists as well. That's just a nice little hobby of mine. More of a recent one. I mean, it's always kind of been a hobby, but I've delved into it a lot more recently, and there's another project there that I'm kind of thinking of. There's always so many projects. It's just finding the right time for them to come to fruition. But yeah, creating playlists. I also enjoy live streaming, of course. That's what I'm doing now. This isn't my first live stream, actually. I've done a couple of like test ones and stuff in the past, like a few months ago. I was kind of testing this out, just live coding and seeing how it went. But yeah, this is my first live coding series, if you can call it that. So it should be interesting to see how we go with that. Yeah, apart from that, I also do like a little bit of 3D motion design as well. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that. And then just also like blogging. I like to just write every now and then. I haven't actually got anything up. Again, this project will hopefully help push that, and I will be able to get out my like first official blog posts and stuff. So that should be cool. I'll be integrating a blog into this project as well. So that's kind of for like from an accountability point of view, that will kind of help to push me to actually write blog posts, because it's going to be a feature. And it would be nice to actually have some blog posts to display. And then, yeah, also reading as well. I like reading about tech things. I like reading about stuff outside of tech, when I can find the time. But most of my reading is kind of around the technologies I'm learning, or around certain concepts in tech, like certain ways of thinking. And yeah, just, those are the kind of things that I kind of get up to in and outside of code. So that's about me. So let's jump on to the project. So this project essentially, it was an idea that I've had for a little while now, actually, because so I'll give you some context. Essentially, I think about a month or so ago, I finished coding my portfolio. So, and I call this version 1. So because I kind of had always had the idea to version it up, and because I thought it was cool, and this was kind of validated by another developer. Her name is, I don't want to butcher it. Her name is Brittany Chiang. I hope I'm not butchering her name there. Brittany Chiang, and I noticed that she did it. And this was like an idea I had, and I saw that she did, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. So essentially, what she has on her like GitHub repos, she has like these different versions of her portfolios, and they're all their own separate repos. So you can go back to look at like the first one. You can look at how it's evolved, and essentially that's the idea I had behind this, was to for each like new portfolio I do, instead of going back to, I mean, it could be a refactor, it could be like a clone and a refactor thing, but for me, I kind of wanted to like level it up in a sense. So my first portfolio was built with just pure React, and I was just using Parcel Bundler to like bundle it. It's just like a zero config approach. So that was pure React, and then I kind of, had it in mind even after I finished that. I was like, okay, so for the next one, I want to use like, a React framework. So either Gatsby or Next.js. Those are the two that I had in mind. Initially, it was going to be Gatsby, but I don't know. I just kind of got swayed almost like last minute by Next.js. So here we are. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, was to version things up. So once I'd finished that, I'd already started thinking about this project and how it could work. But like more recently, I had this idea to like, I mean, I suppose I'd always had the idea to learn in public with it, because that's something I've wanted to push more and more over time. And I've seen, actually more recently, I've been tuning into a few other developers and their live coding streams. So you've got, I believe it's Jesse Weigel. I'm not sure which one, but yeah, he does some of the live streams for like Free Code Camp, I believe. And I actually, so both of these people I heard about on podcasts, because that's just a huge hobby of mine. I love listening to podcasts. And yeah, I heard about him on the Free Code Camp podcast, I believe. And so then I checked it out, and I checked out his live streams, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. He's doing something really cool here. So yeah, that was like a moment of inspiration for me, and I thought, I could actually really go for this, to be honest. Yeah, because I wasn't feeling so confident about it before. And then I also looked at, I think it's Noopcat or Noopcat. I think some people call it both, but I'm going to say Noopcat. I'm going to go for it. And she as well, I heard her on a podcast, and yeah, sorry, I thought there was something in the chat there. I heard her on a podcast, and she was saying that she live streamed, and I checked out her Twitch, and she's got a great following, great channel, great content, and again, another point of inspiration there for me. And so I thought, you know what, like, I should just go for it. So I thought, there's probably no better project to do it than my own like personal portfolio, like as personal as a project gets. So here we are. But I just wanted to kind of open it up and make it like a live learning experience. I'm going to be learning Next.js. I've done I know a little bit of Next, like I kind of know the basics. I know enough to kind of get an Next.js up and running, and some basic kind of pages and route into those pages and that kind of thing. I've taken some small courses. I'm actually doing a group project where we're using it right now. More on that later as well. I'll kind of delve into that at a later point. But yeah, I'm just looking at my connection. I hope everything's running okay. There might be a bit of like lag and stuff. Hopefully not too bad. So anyway, so that was the inspiration behind live streaming this project. The actual project itself, I've been wanting to kind of create version 2 of my portfolio, just with added features and functionality. And what we'll actually do, just like I said, for context, and I will put this in the comments as well if you want to test it out yourself and play around with it yourself. But I will share with you the first version of my portfolio, which I built with Pure React. So my network is like massively playing up right now. I don't know why. Okay, so yeah, here we are. Actually, let me just drag this off. That's probably a bit easier. So this is a version 1, essentially. So like I said, Pure React app. And it's just this one page site, essentially. I think the first time, like, not the first time, early on when I was building it, I was actually just using Reach Router, and I had separate pages, but then it didn't really work out, like the kind of whole flow of things and the amount of content I had, which was not a lot. It didn't make sense to kind of split that off into different pages. I mean, I could have, but I don't know, there was something about it where it kind of just felt more intuitive just to have it on like one page. So that's what I did. And so yeah, we've got our like hero content here, nice call to action. Got our nav here, so our nav menu, just some links, and I built this using Chakra UI. We're going to be talking quite a bit about Chakra UI. It's one of the main tools I'm going to be using, so we will get into that a lot more shortly, but just to let you know, this was built with that, and that's what enables us to have this super easy dark theme. Like literally, to enable this dark theme across most of the components, it's just a couple of lines of code, and we'll be running through this probably in some point, maybe in a couple of sessions time, when we get to actually like building out our UI. There's a couple of steps that I want to take before that, just to make sure that everything runs smoothly as it can. So yeah, that's like a really cool feature amongst many others. And this is essentially just what it looks like. So you've got like this about section, you click on that, we've got this scroll, and then we can just keep going. I contemplate the sticky nav bar, if that's what anyone's thinking right now, because I feel like people are thinking like, why didn't you have a sticky nav bar? I don't know. It's one of those things I still think now, should I have done it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to kind of stick with this. So technologies and tools. So that's, skills, projects here. Just again, some more hover states and stuff. Contact. Yeah, we just got, it's very basic, it's very, just quite a bare bones, like basic app. It did the job, was as proud of it as I could be. Definitely looking back, there's things like, there's definitely things, I suppose there's things you can always change. There's things I would change, but like generally, I was quite happy with it. I think what made, because it did take a while from when I first started building it and when I finished it. I think it was a good, like when we talking, I started like maybe in November-ish, maybe December time, and didn't finish it till like March. So that's a good like maybe 3 to 4 months, maybe even a bit longer. But I think what kind of made that process a bit lengthier was the fact that there wasn't so much of like a clear kind of design. I initially had a design, I was going off that. And then, of course, as always, and design ideas change just naturally. And I think it got to the point where I was working on some other projects, and I just wanted to get the stuff, on this done, and I just wanted to, just get straight into the code. And so I kind of ended up skipping steps where I could have maybe thought about the design and then gone for it. So I ended up doing most of the design thinking actually whilst I was coding. And I think anyone that's had experience with this probably knows that it's not the easiest thing to do, to be making decisions while you're coding. And there's a lot of going back and forth, between sort of what you like and what you don't like. There was so many times I'd like done one thing and been like, no, I don't like that, gone to another thing, but like, actually, no, I want to do the previous thing. And sometimes that happens anyway, but I feel like when you've got like a kind of design set out, you've done the design thinking beforehand, you've set some design standards, and you've got that, UI kind of already fleshed out, and you're happy with it at that point. I feel like going forward, it makes the coding job easier because you're essentially just following that design and not kind of thinking, doing all that sort of mental heavy lifting whilst you're also trying to, code and fix issues, squash bugs and all of that side of things, So that's why I kind of decided with this project this time around, we're going to kind of, do it in such a way that we're going to ensure the designs and all the design thinking is done beforehand. We've got those, we've got like a solid foundation in terms of design. So even if like not all of the components or all the features have been designed yet, when it comes onto that, I can refer back to that set of standards that I've created for myself, that, that design, that kind of style guide or design system, whatever name you want to use for it. I think, for this, style guide might be a bit more appropriate. Sorry, I'm just looking at like my network going crazy. I think hopefully we're doing all right. It's kind of like this stream in itself is kind of like a test to see how this goes, because I'm using my GPU for like the first time. I didn't realize that my like settings were using my CPU, but I've got a fairly powerful GPU, if I can say so myself, so it should be able to handle this. I hope. Anyways, so let's move on now. So that's just a bit of a background about the project and what I'm essentially hoping to do with it. I want to build out, version 2, and I want to kind of bring everyone else on the journey with me, whether like you guys end up sort of in the live sessions and you end up even contributing or something, or if it's just that people, find this at a later point and they find some kind of value in something that I've done, like whatever it is. I kind of just want to push the whole building in public thing, and just potentially actually be of help to some people. That that would be quite cool. But really for me, there's not really too many expectations with this. I just kind of wanted to take a leap for myself, just take that step and that step up and actually live document. And I think some of the other reasons as well that it's I feel that it can be so impactful as well is there's so many times that we're working on things where like you might have this like the light bulb moment, or you might hit that bug fix that you've been trying to sort of get for a while, and you can sort of live document those moments of like, wow, those wins, and also just for future reference, you can come back and you can see the exact steps that you took to maybe solve a certain problem, and it becomes that much more impactful. And you can even take the snippets out and document that as like you have this visual documentation, and I think for many people, myself definitely included here, I find anything sort of like visual, anything visual kind of captures my attention a lot more. So for me, it's also an experiment to see if this could be of more help to myself, even when coming back to solve problems, and having them live documented, and just kind of looking through like the chapters and seeing, okay, actually, yes, this solves that problem that I had before, kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of the benefits I feel that this has, and also even for like employers and stuff. You can take some snippets out of here and show them something that you built, or show them something that you worked on. You could show them, you could visually show them how you overcame a problem, like and show them that essentially like you working that out in real time, like even if it's not happening at that exact time. I think that's kind of the point of it, is that it's kind of this kind of fresh experience where you aren't rehearsing anything. It's just naturally flowing, and you run into issues when you run into issues, and you solve them when you solve them. And I think sort of capturing that is quite cool. So that's about the project. I'll stop. And it's called, by the way, I haven't even introduced it yet, but you'll see it by the title anyway. But it's called Building a Portfolio Website with Next.js. That's the name of this project or live coding series. Can call it either or. So yeah, we'll dive into some aims now. And for this, I'm going to jump over to my Notion file. So that's the session plan, not what we want. So we've got a bunch of aims here. I've just tried to kind of keep them short and sweet, nothing too lengthy. But this is just the general aims. So I've kind of just split it off into things to learn, to things that I want to learn that I don't know yet at all, and things like pre-existing things that I would like to improve. And this might grow a bit, but this is kind of all I can think of. So it's kind of, I think it's definitely more learning like new things than actually improving. So things to learn. So first up on the list, of course, is obviously to learn Next.js, because that's the name of the course, Building a Portfolio Website with Next.js. And like I said, I've got a little bit of knowledge with kind of its basic features, working with the page system, the kind of API routes. Like I kind of have a basic idea of how that works as well. But there's so many more features it offers that I just love to kind of try out, get to grips with, to learn. There's stuff like get static props, get initial props that I really want to understand and learn more about, and learn the use cases as well, where you might use one instead of the other. Also just understanding better like static site generation and how and why it's better for SEO, better for performance optimization, all of these things. So there's plenty of features, and we're going to look at the docs as well anyway, shortly. And we will and we'll kind of look at in a bit more depth about sort of the features that Next.js offers essentially. So advanced React features as well. So like things like error boundaries, higher order components, just to name a few. Like these, I suppose it's not a must have. I think it depends on like the context. So if there is use for them, if I can find some use for them, I feel like with error boundaries, there's always kind of a use for error boundaries, and higher order components, that's something that I still want to get my head around. But like, I'd like to look into that. So, we can, if there's some room for it, if it kind of makes sense to kind of learn about these more advanced features, then I'd like to do that as well. So testing, this is definitely a big one on this project. I've been coding for like just under a year now, and I still like. I have written a test before, like I've done that thing. I've written my first test, but it was kind of very much following. I think I learned it on I think it was a Kent C. Dodds course on front end masters, testing JavaScript, something like that. And I kind of understand the basics of testing. Why we test and the different types of tests. And sort of different aspects of TDD. I've got some kind of base knowledge on that, but for me it's the application that I need to kind of really practice and learn more about and understand and fail at and get better. So I thought this could be a good opportunity for that. And so we'll be hopefully looking at snapshot testing, unit testing, potentially integration testing if there's a need for that, and also visual testing as like an umbrella term. Specifically in this project, I know that we'll be looking at like visual regression testing, almost like an automated way to visually test your UIs, and we're going to be using is it Chromatic? Which we'll talk about again later on when we get onto the whole tooling side of things. But that's kind of my hopes for testing is just to actually kind of implement this thing I know like kind of so little about. Well, I know the basics, but like and I need to now apply what I know and learn more in that way. So it'd be interesting actually to kind of delve a bit more into that. And let's have a look. Sorry, I'm just testing. So, okay, we're good. So lastly, for things to learn is just to learn how to kind of better measure and optimize performance. And so this is kind of mainly around things like Web Vitals, and obviously, well, not obviously, some of you guys may not know this, but like Next.js does a lot to optimize performance, and so obviously we'll be looking at that in the docs. We'll be looking at how Next.js does that out of the box, and then also looking at some stuff that I can do to like better optimize performance. And the whole sort of, I suppose the whole conversation around optimizing performance runs like, it reaches every point of the app essentially, from things like like image sizes and like assets and content, and how you manage that, all the way down to something like even like whether you use like 1 or 2 or 3 fonts, like the amount of fonts you're bringing in, like a whole bunch of things. That's only a few, but we were looking at Web Vitals, and I think I'm gonna kind of get these names wrong, but I know, is it First Contentful Paint? I think it's just better to Google search this to be on the safe side. Let's have a look. So no, okay, sorry, not First Contentful Paint, First Input Delay. So largest contentful paint, which is essentially the loading. You've got First Input Delay, which is around like interactivity. Let me just show you on this. So, and then you've got cumulative layout shifts, which is kind of the visual stability. So ways to like measure these 3 essentially, and how to kind of implement better optimization strategies, and how to test those to see that we actually improved the, like, whether it's the load times or or like the input delay or the layout shift. Just looking at all of those and sort of actually finding a way to test how we're improving the performance of our app. So there's all things to learn. And then in terms of things to improve existing React knowledge, of course. This is always a thing in each project, is just to continually keep improving. So things like managing state, general React, conditional rendering, custom hooks, learning more about hooks. Actually, that's another one I should put on there, is learning more about hooks. Learning more about sort of using things like useref. I used that a bit in the last project for some focus management, which was nice. And if there's the opportunity to use that here again, it would be cool to delve into that again. And like, obviously I've used the main ones are use state and use effect. I know that. Like, there was actually a really interesting blog post by Kenzie Dodds about, just on a tangent here. Yes, I'm going off on a tangent, and I do not care. I literally just put Kenzie blogs. I was looking for his blog. Kenzie Dodds. He had a really cool or interesting article about use effect versus use layout effect. I might just even put this on. This is what the article looks like. I might just put this on my resources list, which I'm going to show you, because I'm going to share it with everyone that is interested, which will just have the list of resources that will help me build this project. So I'll just be adding these as I go along, and potentially, if anyone contributes some resources that they find helps them, then I'll add those to it as well. But yeah, that's something that I'm going to sort of read up on and see if there's any use for it. So anyway, existing React knowledge, yeah. So improve that, improve UI, UX design skills. So design thinking, and in particular, sort of thinking about inclusion, thinking about accessibility at that early design phase, thinking about it in the ideation phase, and baking in sort of, accessibility consideration into like all of those early design decisions. And I'll be showing you actually how I've kind of done that once we get onto like a bit more of a deep look at the designs, which will be in the next video, which will be tomorrow. And I will, at the end, we will go through like kind of rough timings, estimated timings that I'll be on. I can't say for sure, but it's very likely that I'll be on at a certain time, and I can share that at the end. Anyway, so design thinking, tooling, so things like Figma, InVision, and Adobe XD. There's a whole wide range of tools. I'll be looking at one or two of those, and also prototyping as well. I'd like to, kind of. Did I spell prototyping? Prototyping is always, it's that kind of word that I always wonder if I've put too many like T's or O's or P's or. Anyway, we're good. So, lastly, yes, generally improving my accessibility knowledge and implementation of accessible solutions. So this covers things like auditing and testing my application. Excuse me. I'm currently actually taking a course on this. It's Marcy Sutton's course on front-end masters. So I'm getting two different sites mixed up. Front-end masters. So if anyone has a subscription for this and you haven't taken the course, I highly recommend you to check it out at least, because it's really, really cool. And she's awesome. She's doing like amazing things accessibility wise, and yeah, just what I've taken of the course so far has been like very eye-opening and very insightful. And so yeah, I will definitely be sort of going through that course, hopefully more and more as we go on in this as well. So that would, hopefully it will coincide, and I can take what I learned from there and apply it here as well. But yeah, that's a big area of improvement for me. Is I just want to kind of get more sort of hands-on experience of dealing with making my application more accessible. So we'll be looking at tools that we can use to catch like low-hanging fruit, and then potentially looking at ways. I mean, and this is like a maybe, because I don't know like how advanced this will be for me, but we'll also look at sort of ways to automate testing, accessibility in certain areas. So that's it really for the aims. Those are the main aims. There's a whole bunch of things I still want to improve on, but I had to kind of condense it to the main things just so I didn't ramble on forever. Wow, we're coming up to an hour now. So I just want to check that everything's running okay. Essentially, I just want to check everything's running all good. So just please bear with me. Okay, I think we're good. I just wanted to make sure it like hadn't cut off or something, or okay. We are sweet. It's fantastic. Okay. Right, so yeah, those are the aims, and let's jump on to the next thing. We've got quite a bit to get through still. Actually, what I need to do is tick some things off right now. So, right, so we've done this. Like I said, this kind of helps me just to keep like a clear mind of what's going on. Tooling overview and tooling in depth. Okay. So, project structure. So what I'm going to do actually right now, which is going to be a bit easier, is to run through this structure. Bear with me here, guys. Do bear with me. Right, let's go to this thing. I'm just grabbing some stuff to bring over. Don't you mind me? Don't mind me. Let's get rid of you. Okay. Cool. She knows. I promise the next ones will be like more organized for this. Anyone who's catching this and might be a bit like, what's he doing? It will be more, a bit more organized, I promise. Anyways. Oh wow, that's weird. Okay. Cool. And let me just do one more thing. This kind of makes more sense. Okay, sweet. We're good to go. So, back onto the project structure. So yeah, let's have a look. Okay. So yeah, this is just outlining a rough, it's nothing set in stone, but it's just kind of like a rough structure that I'm hoping to take with this. All right. So yeah, anyone that's joining the stream, hey, and I'm just basically running through my project, so what the project's about, why I'm doing it, and some aims and stuff, and some basic project structure things. If you kind of want to go back and get the lowdown on that, I'm gonna share some resources afterwards that you can go and have a look at. Some of those general aims, a bit of background behind the project, a bit of background on me as well about what I do. I'll share links to where it will be useful to get that information. But right now we're on project structure, so I'll just quickly run through what the general structure will hopefully be like. You never know. I'll try too much not to, sway from the path, essentially. I'll try and keep on track as much as I can. But, if we deviate a bit, we deviate, But, this is the essential flow. So I should really have this in number order, but it's fine. So the first kind of step for me is to have the design language kind of built out. So I'm using the name design language here, but you could maybe just use style guide, or I don't really want to use design system, just like I'll come on to why. But I feel like design language was a bit more fitting because it kind of incorporates more than, like, not just the style guide, it kind of incorporates a bit more than that as well. So I just thought it was a bit more suitable to call it something like a design language. And what that incorporates is, like I just mentioned, the style guide. So this is things like our colors, our typography, like heading sizes, maybe spacing as well. And so, like, essentially these are the kind of things that basically help you to create your design tokens, which are, you can almost look at them as your global variables. So these are the kind of reference, like they're like names that are placeholders for actual values. So if you've got brand colors and things like that, different neutral tones, accents, so stuff like your success states and error states, and everything and anything regarding, whether it's color or sizing or spacing, all of these kind of different key parts of building up your design, you would basically store these in tokens, and that's kind of what, as I understand it anyway, that's kind of what the style guide encapsulates. And obviously we're building much more than that. I'm going to be building a component library, so a component library is also part of this design language. This is all being done in Figma, by the way, so we will have a look at this shortly. We'll have a look at it quickly before the end. Tomorrow in the next video is going to be where we'll actually have like an in-depth look at the design file and actually go through kind of the decisions I've made, and potentially actually do a bit of like mocking up and stuff, and actually do some, get our hands dirty with the designs, and start playing with things and messing stuff around, and just to show you guys like how I work with Figma, for anyone that could be potentially interested. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. But yeah, for now, the general idea is to first of all get that design language built, and it doesn't have to be like, okay, this is now done, let's move on to the next thing. For me, this is more of like a living, breathing document, because like I just want to get onto building at this point now. I've been designing for the last maybe 2 to 3 weeks now, actually, and I just felt, let's get into code like pretty soon. But I'll just make sure that I've got enough to get me kind of going and get something started. And so the reason I'm saying this, and the reason why I feel like it'd be okay to do this, is because the general workflow is going to be going from Figma, where's my hand? Figma to Storybook / React, and then into like React. And for anyone that's confused, they're like, what's Storybook and what? I'll come onto that properly when we look at the tooling. But Storybook is just it's like it's not a library. It's kind of like a development environment where you can build components. You can build whole component libraries. Very powerful tool, and we'll look at that in a moment. But yeah, that's kind of why, I don't feel like I need to explicitly, finish and do everything design-wise, but just to have enough to go on, to have enough to start on, and then we can come back, and then we can, if there's components to create, we can come back and do that. The most important thing is that we have the main design decisions made. We have a design standard which I can kind of go against, which takes into account accessibility, so that when it comes to building out these components, I'm not doing all the thinking. That thinking's already been done beforehand, and then the creation of the components or whatever it is a lot quicker, because I don't have to think about all these things that I would have to think about, because they've been accounted for beforehand. So that's kind of what I mean by building the design language. It's just basically having that foundational layer sort of decided. So once that's decided, and once I'm happy with that foundational layer that I can build on top of, then I can start setting up the repo. So we'll set up the repo, which will essentially be an initialized Next.js project with all the necessary dependencies. Those we will look at in the session after the next one. So this will be like Monday. I'm not doing these every day, by the way. I'm going to try and do it as frequently as I can. Maybe every day. I don't know. We'll see how we go. But I will just update sort of everyone on each stream. Unless you just catch it on YouTube, then you catch it on YouTube. But anyone that's trying to sort of catch a live one, I will probably just let you know at the end of each session. Just as it's kind of easy for me, because my schedule's kind of all over the place right now, because I'm back at work, and it's crazy because I'm in the UK and we're just coming out of lockdown, and so the shops are opening back up, and it's going to be busy. So work's probably going to be even busier. So it's just kind of finding time to fit this in, but I will keep everyone updated. So yeah, that's the kind of second step, is to set up the repo, get all of our dependencies that we need in, and then once that's all done, we can then move to step 3, which is translating the design language to design tokens I spoke about a moment ago, and then we'll also be building reusable components as well, and we'll be using Storybook quite heavily to do this kind of stuff, and also to document these things as well. I don't know how in depth I'm going to go into this, because you can go really in depth with it, but I think it's really cool, and I think it's a really nice feature. That Storybook allows you to have these docs. It allows you to document your components and their states. So we'll kind of see how we get on, and I might do a little bit of looking into that. I don't know if I'll go fully fleshed entire design system and document every single thing, but even if it's kind of a small little documentation around some of the main components, I think it'd be great to look at that. So we can take a look at that too. And then lastly, once sort of those design tokens are created, it's mainly the design tokens anyway are created, then we can get onto building pages, and we can be using those reusable components where necessary. And then where we don't have that, we can just leverage Chakra UI. Like I mentioned, we're going to be using Chakra UI. And when we come into looking at it, I'll explain why I'm using it and why it's so beneficial to this project and to the idea I have design-wise. Why it's so beneficial to this project. So yeah, that's that for the general structure. And then this maybe adheres more to that last point of building pages, this workflow. But I'm going to try and work in an iterative workflow, or as much of one as possible. So I'll be essentially designing the feature first. And this will be, potentially wireframing. Sometimes I'll just go straight to mocking up, but we might do some wireframing if I, can't quite get the layout ideas. Sometimes I struggle to think about how something's going to work in the layout, so I have to wireframe it first, and then I can see how it works and start mocking up. But sometimes I'll just go straight to the mock-up, so we'll be doing that too. And then prototyping as well. We shall look at that as well, do some fun interactions and stuff. I love prototyping. It's one of my favorite points or favorite parts of doing designs, and there's definitely still more for me to learn, so I kind of want to explore Figma's prototyping features, and then once the design is done and we're happy with that, then then start to code that. So we'll kind of go into this pipeline of taking it from Figma into Storybook, and then doing all that we need to do in Storybook with it, and which will essentially just be like building the component in isolation, kind of like testing it, and then we can, once we're kind of good with that, well, I suppose no, not a feature. This would be more for the components actually. So forgive me there. I'm kind of tripping over my own thoughts here. So let's just take a step back. So no, we won't be taking it to Storybook. So we'll be coding the feature. The reusable components would have already been done. So the reusable components would already be available for us to kind of go and bring them in as we need. And so yeah, coding the feature, we'll actually build the feature using our newly created UI library, I think I'll call it. And then once that's done, once you've built up that feature from these like nice atomic reusable components and anything else that we might need from it, whether it's data or just whatever we like that component needs to consume. And once that's all done, we will then test that. We will optimize if needed, and then deploy to production. And like that's kind of the general flow we'll go through for like each new feature that we're creating on this. And again, for all of this kind of info, I'm going to make sure that I've got one centralized place that everyone can kind of go to look at this. If you're interested in like contributing at any point, if you have any ideas, and yeah, again, we'll talk about that later. I suppose this whole thing is just me saying like, okay, we're going to talk about this thing later and this thing later and this thing later. I promise we will get onto it. But let's look at tooling. Because I'm very conscious of time now, and just coming up to an hour and a quarter. We're doing quite well. We're getting on. I'm gonna tick off some stuff so I can feel better about myself. And let's move on to the tooling. My coffee's going slightly cold, but I really like it when it's cold, so damn, that's good. Oh, okay, so tooling overview. So let's have a brief look at what we're going to be using. So these are the general list of the main tools we'll be using. Not all of them, but the main ones. So of course we're using Next.js to build this. I've mentioned Chakra UI. We're going to be using this as our component library that we're going to build our own kind of component library on top of. More on that later, and more on how that works when we start like looking at the designs and looking at actually building out that system. So that will be kind of that will essentially be tomorrow. We'll look at that, and I'll kind of explain to you why I'm using Chakra to and not using just my own or like using like style components and building it out myself. I'll explain why I'm using Chakra. And then to kind of go back to these, I know it's very like self-explanatory and explicit. You can probably, if you know about Next.js, you can probably deduct that we're going to be obviously using all of these in some way, or like knowledge of any of these three, languages need to, be known to actually write all this stuff. But this is just for anybody that kind of is just interested in following along and you don't really know much or anything at all, really. I might just at some points just delve into some very basic things just to try and, give you a basic explanation of what's going on, so that it's kind of understandable and digestible for you, and you can roughly understand what's going on. So that's kind of why I've listed them here. And then we're going to be using frame in motion as well, just for some subtle transitions and stuff like that. That was inspired by Chakra because they use it for some of their components, just for like I said, subtle transitions. So we'll be doing the same. You can create some really nice smooth looking transitions with this, and you can also make it accessible using its lovely use reduced motion hook, something like that. So we'll look at that too. Storybook I've also briefly explained. Great tool. We're about to look at that next. And then InVision, Figma. So these are my main two design tools. Figma is really what I'm doing everything in. InVision is really just, I'm currently just using it for wireframing. And I've just kind of come across this again recently, because I was massively into, I still am, but I was massively into design systems a while ago now. Like, it's when I first found out about them actually, and like, you know, I found out about this concept of a design system. I was like, man, this thing is so cool. So I just went into like reading so many articles, and I read InVision's like comprehensive guide to design systems, and I was like, this is really cool. I found like this site called designsystems.com, which we'll be looking at actually, because this influences how we think about and structure our style guide and our design patterns, design language, whatever name you want to give these things. It kind of incorporates all of that. So yeah, it could be interesting. Like to tail off, to go back, they have a tool called a design system manager actually, which is cool, which I kind of thought about at one point using. I'm not sure if we'll get to use it on this project. I might, you know, just because I'm already using Figma, but it's kind of like, that's a good place to document just like your design system essentially. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. I think I'm most likely just going to stick with Figma and document things with Storybook and just kind of, not add too much complexity. But InVision for wireframing is awesome, and we're going to have a look at like just creating some basic wireframes tomorrow. Who's in? Hey, let's have a look. Hey, Harry, how's it going? It's good to have you in here, man. Great to have you here. So, just to kind of catch you up on what is going on here. I am essentially doing like a live coding series of just building out my portfolio, or the second version of my portfolio. I built the first version with pure React, and now I'm going to be approaching it with Next.js. But I've got like a reimagined design, and so I'm going to be working with Figma to create the designs, and then take that into the code using most of these tools here. So yeah, I've just kind of gone through like aims and stuff. Okay, you've been in for about 5 minutes. You probably heard me talking about the tools. Let's just jump back into the Notion file. So yeah, I've kind of gone through like while I'm doing the project, some aims, like project aims, and then the rough project structure as well, like how things might run. So I'm going to have a link to this stuff below. Harry, so if you're interested at all, like, feel free to check that out in the description. This will be on YouTube afterwards, or as early afterwards as I can get it, so just check back there. But yeah, so tooling wise, I've kind of run through everything. The last two, obviously, we're using Git, using GitHub for versioning control, and then as you've seen, I'm using Notion here for my essentially just documenting the whole project. So I've got some notes which have my features. So like this is how I'm kind of working with my features list, and I found this like a really nice way to do it actually. It's very simple and digestible for me anyway, to kind of map out what, you know, my features or sections might look like. So here I've got the home page, and then it's got like each feature on the home page has its own arrow, and then you basically under each kind of feature is like considerations and things that it might include. Maybe so it's got like some things to think about, maybe, or consider. So with my hero section, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, some hero text and maybe having some 3D artwork or something. And so like even from that, you can probably deduct, you know, from there being this hero text and 3D artwork. So those are two things, you know, you can maybe start to think, okay, this is going to be some kind of flex box. And then you can start even thinking of, you know, how it might look visually and start working that into the design. And then we kind of go from there. So that's kind of being the benefit of doing things like this. And so all of these like headings are obviously our top level pages. So we've got home, we've got about, we've got projects, we've got blog. and yeah, we've essentially just got like all these different kind of features and what they might include. Got visions and goals. We've got content. So this is all like the text that's going to be throughout the app, and we've got like a on the top level again. We've got a roadmap and a backlog. So these are the kind of, you know, this is what's going to help me work towards those big goals. So obviously I've got my epics, which is to design and code the portfolio, essentially, the two kind of main ones. And then for each kind of one, I've got different tasks, and I can show you how to set these up. Actually, we'll do this maybe in this video if we get some time. We'll see how it goes. But essentially, like, I'm going to I'll be adding to this anyway, so at some point very soon we'll see how I'm working with that if you haven't got any experience or much experience with that yourself. Then we've got our docs, and so this is what obviously this is where we're including our aims. This is where we've got some resources which I'm going to share a link with, so that anyone can check this out, and they can check out the resources, like the tools I'm using to build this, some like reading around this. So we've got some reading there already, and then some other resources, extra resources as well, that might help you if you want to contribute, or if you're just interested in learning about something, then there's some docs there too. So that's what I'm using Notion for. Amazing tool. Honestly, like, changed my life. No, literally, I have everything on there now. Like, every project is in Notion. Like pretty much most of my life is organized via Notion. Sorry. I don't know if that's the most like stable solution, because if it ever goes down, then my life also goes down with it. So don't know if that's the best thing, but we'll see. So yeah, we're going to look more in depth now. Some of the tooling I'm going to use to build the project. So we'll jump back to Notion. And so I was just telling you about the resources file. And cool. So let's have a look. I think we might have someone else in the chat. If anyone's in the chat now, yeah, feel free to say hey. I'm just walking through this project. I'm walking through building my portfolio with Next.js. So we're currently looking at tooling, what I'm going to use to build it, essentially. So we've had like a brief look at some of the different tools. Now we'll kind of go into a bit more depth, looking at sort of certain sites and stuff. I might not go into all of these, just becoming conscious of time, and I'm going to try and wrap this up like maybe in the next 20 minutes or so. So I don't really know. Yeah, we'll see how we get along. But let's look at like the main one firstly, and that's Next.js. So here we are. And I see that the thingy's blocking the screen a bit. I kind of need to find like an alternative solution to yeah, not having the whole screen, just because I don't want to keep resizing things. So I'm going to work on that for the next kind of stream. Hopefully it's not impacting it too much so far, but when it gets into the code, I know that it'll be much easier if yeah, that's sorted out. So between today and tomorrow's stream, I will be making sure that things are running a bit more easily. Anyway, let's have a look at the first tool and the main one, which is Next.js. So the React framework for production. So they claim that Next.js gives you the best developer experience with all the features you need for production: hybrid, static, and server rendering, TypeScript support, smart bundling, root prefetching, and more. No config needed. And then we've got some of the main features here. So yeah, things like image. So yeah, I spoke about a few of these before, but this is definitely a more extensive list. So image optimization, which will be definitely trying out and taking advantage of where possible. Internationalization, that would be interesting. I'm not sure. Yeah, we might potentially get to use that. I don't know. It all depends on whether it's necessary for this app. But no, I'm sure it will be. Analytics, which which will be very cool to look at actually. It was very interesting to see like your own data, and see how your site's performing and stuff, and see like performance metrics and all the other kind of metrics that are important. Zero config, that's always a big plus for me, because the simpler the easier, of course. I feel like that's just true for most people. The hybrid approach, so the static site generation and the server-side rendering as well. I kind of mentioned this before. It would be cool, to learn about that. Having pre-rendered pages at build time. Incremental static generation. So I've heard about this one before. I think maybe when I was listening to a podcast about Next.js, I think someone maybe mentioned this. So add and update statically pre-render pages incrementally after build time. And so this is essentially like, if you were to, I believe anyway, if you were to put in some data from a source, let's say for example like Google Analytics, you've got a blog post and you want to check how many views and you want to update that right in real time. It's, you don't have to kind of wait to load that page. I believe anyway that's it, is that you don't have to wait to load the page again, maybe. I think it's after there's some kind of downtime, or maybe after a certain amount of time. I believe that data updates, but I might be wrong on that, so don't hold me to it. But I feel like I heard something like that. That probably wasn't the best example either, but yeah. It looks like a cool feature, and I will look forward to getting into that. TypeScript support, which is interesting, but I haven't learned TypeScript yet. I don't know if this is the right project to do that. It's definitely on the list of things to learn very soon, so it's definitely up there, because obviously, as most people probably might have the same thing, maybe not, but I have like a ridiculously long list of things I'd like to learn, but there's obviously some that I know how to prioritize more than others. TypeScript is one of them. It's definitely higher up there, so quite soon I'm going to be delving kind of into that. Fast refresh, always love that. File system routing, so yeah, this is the pages directory kind of thing that I was mentioning before. So file system routing is awesome. I really love like that idea that every component in the page directory just becomes a root automatically. But yeah, handling like routing, it's just so much, like for me it's been the nicest experience I've had in terms of React applications, and sort of like routing to different places. It's just so nice. API routes as well are really cool. It's just really great. Optionally create API endpoints to provide backend functionality. Really nice for, I think it's really nice for something like this site I've got, because I've got a couple of features that I'd like to include where we will be fetching data from kind of like third-party APIs, and I think the API routes is just so nice just for that use case. Obviously it works of course for like a number of other use cases, but for this one I feel like it will be a very nice experience. Because it's not a lot of heavy lifting. It's kind of just, we're just loading a bit of data here and there, kind of thing. Built-in CSS support. So obviously I'm using Chakra UI. I'm using a library on top of this. But if we wanted to, we can use CSS and Sass as well, just straight out of the box, which is all part of that zero config approach. So that's cool. Code splitting and bundling, so yeah, code splitting we get for free, which is pretty cool. Those are most of the, you've got the whole like who's using, which is really cool. So Twitch, one of the platforms I'm streaming on right now, using Next.js, Hulu, Nike, a whole bunch of people. So it's very cool. Here are the docs as well. So yeah, we'll be kind of looking at this where necessary. Maybe if we run into some problems or we need to learn something or learn a bit more, I'm going to try and kind of push learn in the docs a bit. referring to the docs a bit more. It's something that I often forget about, and it's I think the docs like not being a kind of interactive or like interesting way to learn about something. I think those days are long gone now, because we have so many different technologies now that actually have amazing documentation. I think Next.js is definitely one of them, and they've done a great job of keeping this engaging, I think, because I've kind of had to read through this a couple of times, like not fully, just kind of briefly going through, and just maybe if I need to learn a thing or two, they kind of make it super easy. They've got this nice table of contents here on the left side where you can just kind of jump down and you can find what you need, jump into it. So yeah, we'll be using this as well, which would be cool. But yeah, that's Next.js. So awesome stuff, and we shall look at Chakra next. I'll get rid of that. And my network is falling down. That's why we had a bit of a longer load time there. I think we're doing okay. Yeah, we're just hitting a bit of a dip right now, which is obviously not fun. Let me just check the chat. Okay, so let's have a look. So Chakra UI, create accessible React apps with speed, and I can really vouch for that. Like, they're not just saying it, guys. It's very, very true. Chakra UI is a simple, modular, and accessible component library that gives you the building blocks you need to build your React applications. So that's their kind of statement, punchline, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I'm a massive fan of Chakra UI. If anybody comes across this, and I'm going to center myself again. I think this is a bit better. Sorry about that sound there. Okay, yeah. So anyone that hasn't used Chakra UI, if you are slightly a bit interested, if you're not interested yet, then take a look at the docs. Honestly, give it a go. It's an amazing library, and like I think even since I first started using it, I've just seen kind of it become more and more popular, and rightly so. It's a great library, and it's so well thought out. The APIs are so well thought out. They've taken great care to make sure that they've made it like accessible. And of course, like when I say accessible, it's of course there are always areas to improve, and you can tell that they are very open to improving these things. They've got great community around it as well. So that's via like Discord, and of course they accept open source contributions. They encourage it actually. So they're just doing really, really cool things, and working with it has just been a dream for me ever since I found them back almost probably about half a year ago now actually. And I've just been sort of building all of my projects with this. I haven't actually used anything else, which is amazing, because this is kind of like probably the first, it was probably the first UI library that I actually really used. I mean, like we've all used or at least seen like Bootstrap, and I think if I have to be completely honest, it was one of those things that I was just like, okay, how do I change this? Like I was like, okay, this is a pain to change this. Like I can't do that. It was very restrictive for me personally, as someone that has like slightly stronger design opinions, maybe you could say. But with Chakra, what I love about Chakra is that it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. So like if you are a developer that doesn't want to think too much about the design for their project, whether it's just the fact that you just don't want to deal with the design, you want to get into the code, or if it's just a very small project or a quick project and you want to just quickly flesh out some designs and stuff, Chakra is just perfect for this, because it comes with a set of components that they already have their own look and feel to them. It's not bland. It's you could say to an extent it's almost opinionated. it's opinionated to an extent where you can just use chakras, like you can use their own sort of design language, style guide, whatever name I need to decide on one. You can use their own style guide to help you to build out, your own site or app, and you can get by with that just fine, because you have this kind of consistent cohesive look to your site, because all of the components are very cohesive. So you can do that. It allows for that. But what it also allows for, and this is what I love it for, is that it allows for you to actually build your own implementation, your own customization, your own library, essentially, even on top of it, while still taking like the benefits from Chakra, which is why, like, you can see I'm smiling right now, because like that's what I'm doing with this project. And this is what I was speaking about earlier on in the stream, about my kind of hopes for how I will use Chakra in this project, essentially. So the way I'm going to be using this is, and I said I was going to talk about this in the design file, but I'll run over it shortly now. We'll look at it in more depth in the design session tomorrow. But essentially what it's going to look like is Chakra will be this foundational layer where there's a set of like sort of design principles that they already have baked into their like the library, which I'll be downloading, right? Installing as a dependency. And so we'll have access to all of these kind of foundational level things. We'll have access to the complete library, but I just want to kind of take that foundational layer. And what I mean by that is to leverage certain things like, the spacing system, or even, what I suppose, of course, like the color mode. So to enable dark mode, that's something that's Chakra specific. And so we don't need to reinvent the wheel for that. We have that for free. But what we can add on top of that, of all of these kind of foundational things, the spacing, that color mode, light and dark, maybe some typography sizes we can maybe use, and things like media queries we can use Chakra Zone if we wish. But what we can leverage and add on top of that is our own style guide. So my own choice of colors, and we can still use the Chakra colors. We can just add, my colors on top. We can, add my own fonts on top, and anything and everything else that we will need to make this sort of, our own UI library. So essentially, like, that's why I think it's really cool. That might not make much sense to kind of anyone watching it at this point, but once we get into tomorrow's session, I'll hopefully illustrate it a bit better, and kind of make it a bit clearer how we're going to be implementing Chakra UI. But anyone, like I said, I'm going to kind of do this at the end of each kind of section. Anyone that's interested in contributing in any sort of way, or if you find this cool and you'd like to kind of code along, and you don't know Chakra, but you want to learn it, the docs are incredibly helpful. I honestly, I think the first time I used it, I got through building like an entire, I say entire, it was a very small app, but I got through that whole kind of bit, bearing in mind, I was a lot more infant in my knowledge of React. But I, managed to quite comfortably get by building just from following the docs. It's that helpful, honestly. And I think it's just worth a disclaimer that I'm in no way affiliated with Chakra or any of these tools or libraries for that matter. But I just really love the work that they do. And so, I'll shout it to the rooftops if I have to, because it's made my life as a developer much easier, honestly. They've got some incredible components here, and you can just tell it's so well thought out. The accessibility is baked into so many things. It doesn't completely excuse the responsibility for us as developers, to ensure that these sites are accessible. There's still, it doesn't do everything for you, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. But what it does do is that it gets you think, for me, it actually got me thinking a lot accessibility, because at first I was kind of thinking like I suppose it was my overcritical mind came into play, and I was like, but is this such a good thing? Like, what if it takes away, someone thinking about semantic HTML, because they're using these like abstractions created by Shredder. But then actually for me it had the opposite effect. It actually made me to consider like semantic HTML more, and actually think like, so this whole time like I've been like maybe using this array label where I should have actually used the label that you could assign to this input or something like that. Again, I don't give good examples, by the way, guys. Please, you'll have to get used to this. I'm trying to get better. But yeah, check out Chakra. It's got everything you need to get started from installation. If you're using an older version, you haven't used it for a while, you need to upgrade, it's got a guide on that. They walk you through their design principles, comparisons if you're coming from Tailwind. It's very similar to Tailwind. So anyone that uses Tailwind, I think you would definitely like Chakra, by the way. That's just, something that I feel you enjoy. What else? So yeah, how is Chakra different to me? So I've got some differences on theme UI as well, material UI, and design as well. There's some opportunities to create a PR. I think I'm actually gonna create what will be essentially my first PR actually to this project. I've been looking at these for a while, and I've been meaning to sort of look at that. So at some point on here, I will even potentially do this live, and we'll work on the pull request together, and maybe we can get some people that actually have used Material UI. I'm going to obviously be testing it out as well. I'll test out the two, maybe do a live comparison, and we can kind of just go from there. But yeah, it's also got some information about runtime trade-offs for slightly larger applications and stuff, and then you've got stuff about style props, about global things. This is all to do with the theme. Excuse me, about setting up your own theme, essentially. So, yeah, a lot of stuff. And then we have all the components down here, and it's got all of the information you'll essentially need about each one. So, really in-depth stuff, great documentation, and a great tool. So that is Chakra UI. So let's swiftly kind of move on here. So we're not far from the end. I don't know if we'll get all of these done, or we might have to just kind of move a bit quicker with each one. But I get very excited about these things, you see. Build bulletproof UI components faster. So this is Storybook, and this is essentially what it's all about. It's all about building bulletproof UI components faster. So Storybook is an open source tool for developing UI components in isolation for React, Vue, Angular, and more. It makes building stunning UIs organized and efficient. They've got a nice little video you can watch. It's very cool. They've got this nice little kind of GIF here, showing what you can do with it, showing you all the different, look at all of these frameworks that we can use them with. It's completely framework and agnostic, and yeah, it's kind of just got some of the main features. So you can, and this is one of the main things it kind of builds. It kind of is built on is building components in isolation. And one thing I've got in the resources here, which I shall just quickly jump out and show you, is component-driven UIs. And this was actually created by the team at Chromatic. I feel like they're either the same team or they're working very similarly. I need to kind of clarify this, but I feel like maybe it's some of the same team, or maybe it's part of the team at Storybook. But I know there's definitely a link there between Storybook and Chromatic, and this is this built by the team at Chromatic? Yeah, maintained by Chromatic, and yeah. And then I believe, so this is where we go into a little bit of a rabbit hole here. I'm going to try not to go too deep into this. I'm just very interested, So yeah, so Chromatic maintains Storybook. So this is built with the same team. I actually first kind of heard about Storybook and got interested in it from, when did I get interested from it? It was a while ago I heard about it, but I got interested after I heard Tom, I can never remember, Tom Coleman speak about it on the React podcast, Chantastics, amazing podcast. And yeah, that's kind of how I really learned about what Storybook can do. And after he kind of went through how they came about building it, and you know how it's grown and what they're doing with it, I was like, okay, this is a cool tool, and this is definitely something, you know, for the future. It's being used a lot with React. So, and it was concerning an area I was interested in, you know, the whole design systems and building maintainable, scalable frameworks. So that's kind of how I just got more and more interested and used it on my last project. I used it like a little bit, you know, I barely scratched the surface with it. So with this project, I really want to learn more about its capabilities and functionality. But yeah, so it's essentially kind of built on this idea of component-driven user interfaces. And I'm not going to kind of read this whole thing, but it in a nutshell, it kind of follows these 4 points. So building one component at a time, so building them in isolation, and also defining that, like, said components relative states. So if it's a button, it's building that one button in isolation to everything else. So you're just building that button on its own. It's not concerned about anything else. But we're taking into account its state. So whether it is, you know, the default state of the component, whether it's active, disabled, hovered, you know, whatever the state is. Same with like inputs, avatars, cards, whatever the component is. It's about building that component and just being concerned with the UI essentially, and then combining them as well. So combine small components together to unlock new features while gradually increasing complexity. Now this is a good intersectional point to actually talk about a different. I feel like I'm putting everyone all over the place, but I'm going to add this to the resources, because this is how I actually got interested in design systems in the first place. It was through reading literally this blog post. I've actually got the book, and I need to definitely finish this. But this is like a post by Brad Frost about atomic design, which is essentially, it's like a design methodology about building sites atomically. So the whole idea, again, I'll link that if you want to have a closer look at that, but it's about having like breaking things up into like atoms at the smallest level. So you've got like your smallest UI components like buttons and inputs. These things on their own, you know, in a UI itself, they don't really have any, they don't really carry any context around them. Like it's like you have a button, right? Like there's nothing kind of around that button's just kind of on, like it's like a Lone Ranger. But then let's say, okay, we can take a step up now, and suddenly that button becomes like, I don't know, part of like a search bar, which has an input. So you've got an input and it's got this search button. Now that is what the next step up would be, like a molecule, right? So you've got two atoms, you've got the input and you've got the button. They come together, they create this molecule. Now there's a bit more of like a bit more meaning behind it, because now you can see, okay, that's very clearly a search bar and there's some meaning there, right? A step up from that would then be like this search bar being part of like a nav bar, which has like maybe a list, or like, yeah, basically like a navigation menu where like each element of that menu is like its own atom essentially, but then together they become part of something that's a bigger meaning, which is a menu. And then the menu and like the search bar are inside this nav bar, which is now actually like an organism. Organism, is that the next stage? Atoms, molecules, organisms. I think that's how it went. And essentially, like, you have multiple organisms on a page, which help you to, I believe the next step is something like templates, and then you use those templates to then build like full pages. yeah, atoms, molecules, templates, pages. Yeah, so that's kind of essentially the flow. It's kind of building up things atomically, and that kind of goes hand in hand with this like component-driven user interfaces. So that's that whole thing I was talking about with, you use the atoms to create molecules, use molecules to create organisms. Those organisms form your templates, which help you to then assemble pages. So that's kind of the next step, assembling the pages. So yeah, build pages by combining composite components. And then yes, next step is also using mock data to simulate pages in hard to reach states and edge cases. So pages that rely on external data. And then we integrate these pages into our project. And so this is like where Storybook makes this process much better, basically. And that's my understanding of it. If anyone, feels that there's a better way to explain it, feel free to drop something in the comments or link to a post. I'm definitely learning about this too. Sorry, I'm going to need some water now. How are we? I think we're hitting 2 hours now, almost. So we're going to start rounding up shortly. But since it's the intro, I'll allow it to go a little bit over. Excuse me. Wow, that was great. Gotta love water. Anyway, so yeah, build components in isolation, mock hard to reach use cases. So that was explained on the other page. Document use cases as stories. We'll look more at this when we get to working with Storybook, probably maybe from Monday onwards. And you can also use add-ons, which is a really cool feature of Storybook. But yeah, and look, then they've also referenced Brad Frost, author of Atomic Design, which we were just looking at. So you can see the kind of ecosystem and how Storybook came into play and why it's so important. So yeah, lastly, so it's just another couple of points that ensure consistent user experience, auto detect code regressions. That's with like add-ons, unit test components. So it's got some jest integrations as well, which we will hopefully look at, which will be cool. Catch UI changes down to the pixel of every commit. So this is more to do with like automated visual testing. So like the visual regression testing I was talking about with chromatic, that we'll be looking at some point as well. Share and reuse everything. Yeah. So you can also share like your entire Storybook kind of applications as well. You can like deploy them to like its own kind of thing. And this is how like I believe some companies are actually documenting their design systems. It's just with Storybook. And we will look at one case study for this, maybe in a bit more detail at another point, but I'll give you a quick run through. It's Orbit. I'm not sure whose design system is Orbit. Let's have a look. Orbit Designs. Oh, is it actually... Are they called Orbit? Okay, they're just called Orbit. They're very cool, actually. I really like this design. And an Orbit by who? By Kiwi. Oh, it's not going back. Oh, it's okay. Kiwi. Ah, okay. So we're a flight okay, we're a flight company. Kiwi.com. Okay, so this is actually the company. That's very cool. So their design system is called Orbit, and this is so cool, right? So this is a deployed Storybook kind of application, basically. And it's got like all our design tokens here. So this is the design tokens I was talking about. How you've got a name which points to a value, but this can be referred to in code, and it's just a way to basically just not have to keep on calling the value. I just feel like it's more about the meaning. If you've got success, you know that any success state, you can just grab this. You don't have to look for like green 500 or whatever it is. You can instead look for success 500, and that's a lot more meaningful. So for those people that don't know much about sort of tokens and things like that. Type scales, things like this. Like I said, this is the kind of power of using Chakra. To build on top of, is that we can leverage Chakra's own sort of type scale. We can leverage their spacing scale, because I've used them in projects before and they work fine for me, and I feel like they'll work fine for what I'm building as well. So there's all these kind of cool things. You've even got supported platforms, shorthand props. It's really cool. And then a bit more info on the colors and stuff, a different look. I really like this one personally. Some flexbox things, list of icons, again some more spacing, and those design tokens, and then typography as well. Very cool. And then we have a look at the actual components themselves. And so this is like the documenting of the components. So they've got like a button, a default button, compact. So a button can reduce its padding. So like these are almost like user stories, but it's more, this is like component stories, right? Because usually like it's like a user can do this, but this is like a button can reduce its padding to fit into tight spaces. A button can be disabled. A button can take the width of its container. So this is kind of the power of using Storybook. These are, the live components that are being brought in from, the code, being brought in from your code. And then you just write documentation around them essentially. And it just gives this whole thing like more meaning, which is I just think this is a very cool way to do things. And I think to even have this done at a basic, obviously we won't get anywhere near this because we're not going to have this many components, because we're not building a design system per se. We're building like our own kind of UI library. Even that might be a bit too far to say. It is more of like a style guide, but I have got a bunch of components I'm going to build, so I will just stick with like UI or component library. But like even if it's a few kind of elements we end up getting to create here by the end of this, by the end of these sessions, like it would be cool to just document some things, because the way I look at this, right, is that I would like to kind of just keep adding to this now for a while, and keep on adding features where like necessary or possible. And of course, in terms of designing these features, it'd be much better to have a framework around that in which I can just, I'm not just having to reinvent the wheel in terms of actually doing the design thinking and looking at, the tokens and different sort of spacings and paddings. All of these things have been baked into this design language, and then I can just build new components based off already, informed decisions. So, let's jump out of this now. So that's just an example of like what a deployed design system looks like. But anyway, that's Storybook. We're going to look at this more tomorrow in the design file. Actually, not tomorrow, but at some point when we get into the code, we'll look at that a lot more. And we'll show that like in action. I'll show you how you can set up your own and like write your own stories. We'll probably start with a button, and we will start to build stuff out. Hopefully on Monday, if not some point during the week, we will get into that. So where were we at? So we've looked at tooling overview. We're still at tooling in depth. So we did want to go back into the resources. Sorry, I'm getting a bit tired now because it's late. So I'm doing silly things. So this is where we're going to just take a quick look into everything. Framer motion, so production ready motion library for React. Utilize the power behind Framer, the best prototyping tool for teams. Proudly open source. Very cool. Very, very cool. So they've also got like a nice interactive thing on their site where you can just test out some of these things. Actually, on my... Do I have it here? On my version 1 of my portfolio, I'm actually using Framer. Let's just have a look at it here. Right, so you can see like that whole animation is used with Framer motion. When I hover, this is also Framer, just using like this while hover prop, which allows you to do certain things to like SVG paths when you hover over them. Just a couple of fun things there. So yeah, Framer's cool. There's a lot you can do with it. Yeah, and sort of like nice animations like this. If you open a card, sort of the way that the other, you have this overlay in the background. This card zooms into the middle, zooms in. It's very cool, very cool. Anyway, so that's Framer. You can see I'm moving through them quicker. So testing tools now. Yeah, we'll be using Jest. So Jest is a delightful JavaScript testing framework with a focus on simplicity. It works with projects using Babel, TypeScript. Yep, no React, Angular, and more. So zero config. So yeah, they talk about snapshot tests, test parallelized. Wow, never said that word before. Parallelized by running them in their own processes to maximize performance. Very cool. From it to expect, Jest has the entire toolkit in one place, well documented, well maintained. Well, good. I like that. Fast and safe. Code coverage, easy mocking, great exceptions, philosophy. Yeah, so we're going to get more into Jest, and this is, I'm going to be doing some homework myself on this, and just maybe get some experience and just writing some basic testing, just to get it up and running, and just so it doesn't delay things too much when we come to look at this. Within the code. So I'll be doing that maybe over the next couple of days. We probably won't get into this until at least like Monday, if not after. For anyone watching this, it's Saturday right now, so that's in 2 days' time. But yeah, that's Jest. That's cool. So the next one, Chromatic. And by the way, like I said, this isn't all the tools. This is just our main tools. There's a couple of other things that we'll probably use, but we'll look at those as we go along. I think it would be best to. So we kind of spoke a very, very small bit about Chromatic. So Chromatic, this is the team that created Storybook. So Chromatic automates gathering UI feedback, visual testing, and documentation, so developers can iterate with less manual work. So pinpoint UI bugs instantly, check for visual bugs in every story across browsers and screen sizes whenever you push code. Comprehensive UI coverage, automated testing with CI. So this is what I was talking about with the automated testing. All components get tested every commit automatically. So have 100% confidence in UI every time you ship, which I think is just a really, really cool tool, and I'm very much looking forward to using this. So your tests complete in seconds because all components are tested in parallel, no waiting for CI to finish. That's awesome. Every pixel matters. Minor tweaks can trigger major UI bugs. Our eagle-eyed algorithm catches the subtlest UI changes, which is very powerful. Hey Tio, how's it going, man? Hope you're doing well, man. Great to see you here again. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so I have actually. I don't know how long you've been in this, but yeah, I've just kind of run through frame of motion. So I've used it a bit in my kind of previous portfolio project, actually. Let's jump kind of back to it. So I was just showing. Just got here. Nice, man. Well, it's great to have you in here, man. I hope you're doing well. And let me just show you the kind of so like this initial kind of animation that you could probably not just see properly there. Let me just refresh and show a bit better. I'm still not sure how I feel about this, but yeah, this was all kind of frame of motion, just using this like staggered children like prop, which is quite interesting, actually. Essentially what this is like, it's one SVG, but it's got all these like circular paths, and they're all the children of this like top level component, and you can obviously stagger it at that top level so that each child like has a delay between each state. So all it is like it's an array of so like the fill opacity is obviously at like 1 or however high it goes, and then it goes down to 0, and you use a staggered effect to, and obviously there's some kind of like position as well, where the position moves as well very slightly to kind of give it this like jiggling effect. But yeah, that's kind of all I used it for on there. I want to do more with it in this one. It's also got this hover, like, so they've got that while hover prop, which I found quite useful, just to have this nice little like interaction that you can just kind of hover and kind of have these colors fade in, and just kind of just switch it out. But that's all I kind of used it for on that one. But I kind of want to have the whole like, oh thanks man, I appreciate that. It's kind of, I did a whole bunch of tests with it actually. Like I did a load more before I kind of settled on that one, and even this one I still have second thoughts about kind of doing it a different way, but I kind of settled on it at the end. I was like, you know what, let me just leave it here. I think it's okay. But there's like a whole bunch of like things that you can do with, obviously I'm sure you've seen it, like fading in like sections, and that's kind of more what I want to do with this project is like even stuff like this. I think this is like awesome, man. Sort of having this kind of really subtle like motion. Surprisingly, yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting more into that, because like I had seen it before and I did have some ideas around it, but I think it's one of those things, time just kind of ran out, and I didn't really end up working with it in the end. But I'm definitely going to give it a go on this project though. So yeah, thanks for that suggestion. I'll give it a go for sure. But yeah, the gestures like as well as like another cool feature. So yeah, that whole hover thing, that was part of the gestures. So like while hover, like on hover start, you have all of these different kind of things that you can mess around with. So it's going to be interesting to look at that and see if I can get into that a bit more. But yeah, I'm just kind of going through some tools here, Tio. So basically, because I think you saw one of the earlier kind of videos I did, I'm kind of just running through it a bit more extensively now, like looking at the entire project. So just to kind of recap on things, what we've kind of gone through is I'll just go through this. So we've kind of just gone through introducing the project, like why I'm doing the project, some aims, like the structure, which I'm sure like you saw probably before in one of the other videos I did, so you probably got an idea on some of that anyway. And then obviously now we're just looking at tooling. So yeah, we're looking at stuff in depth, and let me just jump back over to this. So yeah, we were just looking at like Storybook and Chromatic for like creating like UI components and like testing components like visually. So I don't know if you know about Storybook, Tio, but it's a really powerful tool for taking like, especially where you have like components created in Figma, let's say, and you want to take that over to build like your own like component library in React. Like Storybook kind of bridges that for you, and you can essentially build components in isolation and then test them for like any changes in UI, that kind of thing, before like bringing them into your app essentially. So you kind of have these like bulletproof components, and you can be like you can be confident that they're going to work in the way you expect them to. And it's not necessarily like a replacement for testing, like doing like unit testing and testing the functionality of a component. You still have all of that you can do, and it actually works well. Like from what I've read anyway in the docs, they've got some add-ons that actually support Jest as well. So like with like snapshot testing, I think it is. So I'm going to be looking at that as well. But this is Chromatic. It's a tool. So this is the team that built Storybook. They've got this kind of tool about gathering UI feedback, visual testing, documentation. But the most interesting thing for me is the automated testing with CI. So every time you like commit, or you push some, like every time you do a commit, like it basically runs some tests over like all your components in parallel, and then it like searches for any changes in like any of the UI. So Gonna check it out. Yeah, man, give it a look. Like, how did I find them, or like how am I finding them? If it's how I found them, it's just through. You know what? Like, I'm actually even trying to think myself how I found some of these. I know for like, let's go back to the resources. I know for like things like Storybook itself. I actually came across this. I think it must have been like maybe on a course I was taking, and I saw someone else using it. I think that's how I like was first exposed to actually like the existence of Storybook, but I didn't really know much about what it did. Where I got interested in Storybook was through a podcast. I don't know if you listen to the React podcast, but it's one of the main podcasts I listen to in downtime and stuff like that. And one of the guys, Tom Coleman, who works on Storybook, he was chatting with Chantastic, who's like the host of the podcast, and he was talking about Storybook and sort of, you know, how it came about and the problems it's solving. And I thought, actually, yeah, this seems quite cool. So from there, I looked into it more, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is actually quite a cool tool. And I see quite like a lot of companies are like starting to use it now. And it seems to be, yeah, really gained in popularity over the past, I don't know, few years maybe. And then from there, I found out about Chromatic, which is kind of like, I suppose it's one of those tools that almost comes with it because it's very specific to Storybook. And in terms of other tools, like, I don't know what other tools I've got on here. Yeah, obviously Chakra. You've probably heard me talk about Chakra on here before. I kind of went through that, which will be pretty cool to use. Yeah, I've kind of gone over time, but it's cool. I was trying to keep this at 2 hours. I'm just a bit over 2 hours, but it's cool. I can go for like probably maybe in like another 15 minutes, and then I'll start to like round off. You just give me time to talk about the rest of the tools. So yeah, I've just kind of been through these tools, and yeah, just to mention again, and just for you, Tio, if you don't know, with all these live sessions, I'm going to be essentially having these on like YouTube afterwards. Obviously, they'll be on Twitch for however long they are until it expires, but they'll kind of be on YouTube indefinitely. So if there's anything that you're interested in sort of going back over, feel free to check it out on there, because I've gone through kind of like just the basic Next.js docs, like Chakra UI, just explaining how I'm going to be using it. You know, obviously, yeah, we looked at Frame in Motion just now. I've looked at Storybook, Jest, Chromatic. So yeah, obviously Jest and Chromatic, like this is more the testing side of things. So the next one on the list is Axe, and this is for accessibility. So they've got this really handy Chrome extension, which I've got. So what you can do, which is quite cool. So let's just take like any odd site, for example. Excuse me. Actually, no, we can just take my first, like, my first portfolio site. I'll just quickly show you what the Axe tool does. It's very helpful for checking the accessibility of your site. Obviously, you've got tools like Lighthouse, which I don't know if it has a different name now. I can never remember. But like Google's own solution to like audit in your performance and accessibility. I'm just going to quickly search it, because I feel like it's got a different name now. Or does it? Lighthouse. No, okay, maybe it's still called Lighthouse. Or like, okay, webdev. I think this is like okay, so this shows you, yeah, this is like the quick way to kind of see your site's measurement. But obviously it's not like it doesn't kind of give you everything, but it's a good way to just quickly check kind of the health of your site in a snapshot. But so yeah, tools like Axe help you to look a bit more in depth. So it's in the DevTools actually. So you just open up DevTools. Once you install Axe, you can go to the Axe DevTools, and you can go to scan all of my page, or you can scan part of your page in isolation, but that's like an advanced feature. You have to sign in or sign up. I don't know if that's paid. I think maybe you just have to sign in or sign up, but I haven't done that yet. I just usually test my whole page because I want to see kind of throughout what's going on. And so we can see, oh no, I've got one critical. I thought I eliminated all of the low-hanging fruit, but obviously there's something here that hasn't been accounted for. Button must have discernible text. I feel like this is... So what's cool about this? Okay, so this is good that we've come up with this actually, because I need to fix this now. But what's cool is that it shows you the total issues. It shows you like the level of seriousness of the issue. So whether it's like critical, it's like, okay, this is like this is going to impact your site massively in terms of accessibility, of course, like not anything else. Or if it's minor or moderate, it tells you also if it's in in review as well. But I haven't got any in review right now. But obviously we've got this one critical one, which is obviously not good. And it tells you how to fix these things. It tells you what the issue is. So it's saying ensure buttons have discernible text. So for a screen reader, it's not going to read what that button does. And obviously it's important because that button will have some kind of functionality. It might change on the page and the user won't know what it's doing if there's no name to read it out. So I'm just seeing on here cat name role value. So I'm guessing it's maybe an icon or something. So it tells you element does not have inner text that is visible to screen readers, which is a problem just because I just outlined why as well, that it won't tell like a user that's using the screen reader what that button's going to do if they click it. So they have no way of telling. So what you can do first of all is you can inspect, and it's just showing me right there that it's this button here. So type button. Cool. So yeah, you can highlight it. So like what is good about like seeing this is that once you inspect it, you can kind of... So let's actually like see about fixing this. So let's see if it can kind of clear things up if I can't remember how to edit things like this. So let's try and stick an ARIA label equals, I'm just going to say open menu or something like that. Okay. And now let's have a look. Refresh. Oh no, we've introduced another one. So that definitely doesn't fix things. I didn't think it would actually. But let's have a look. Let's highlight the issue. I guess that's one. They must conform to a valid name, so I've just put the wrong name for something. Yes, no, I've butchered that. Let's go back. I didn't spell label correctly. Okay, so now let's go back to the Axe Dev Tools. Let's refresh that, and now we've cleared that up. So you can see now the critical has gone back to 0. We fixed that. It's got text that will be read out now. It will let you know that if you click that, it will open the menu, which is what it will do. There we go. So yeah, that's Axe Dev Tools. You know, it also shows you it will come up critical if you have any color contrast that is not in is not in the guidelines of the WCAG or WCAG, however you say it. So yeah, if you haven't got high enough color contrast, it will let you know about that. And so yeah, so I did quite a bit of work to make sure that, you know, not quite a bit, like a little bit. It wasn't like wildly inaccessible. There was just a few things I had to clear up, like adding some sort of labels to things, maybe checking some color contrast in places. So it's, yeah, the Axe Dev Tools is very helpful, and it gives you a lot of information on how to go about solving those problems of things being inaccessible. So I would say like it's a massively helpful tool. Got NVDA, so screen reader for Windows. I think for what's it you have for Mac? Is it? See, I actually used to be Mac, so it's weird that like Mac just feels like this thing that's alien to me now. Is VoiceOver? No, voiceover is iPhone, right? It's okay. No, Jaws is Chrome. I can't remember. But oh no, Mac is voiceover. So yeah, voiceover would be interesting to learn about the differences between these screen readers. But yeah, NVDA is cool. So I'll be using this as well, just to do some more manual, not necessarily manual, but like some kind of manual screen reader testing to kind of check that things are being read out, things that are supposed to be read out are being read out. Just some subtle things like that, really. What was I going to do? Cheat sheet, and I've got I have got it somewhere. I just couldn't be bothered to go looking for it, so I'll just search it again. But yeah, it's got some nice like cheat sheet stuff. Anyone that's interested in giving this a spin for themselves and testing it out, it's very helpful to see how your site might be used by a screen reader. Of course, it's not like you still can't really go if this is like a single source of truth of how accessible your site is, but it definitely does help to giving you the confidence that you're taking care of some of the concerns. But yeah, there's like a bunch of things that need to be considered. But there's definitely better people that can tell you more about how that what those things are and how to tackle those, which is something that I'm obviously wanting to learn more of. But yeah, that's that tool, and then onto design tools. Really, this is just kind of like a quick one. Figma's not going to take me to where I want it to. It's just going to take me to my own thing. But yeah, Figma I'm using obviously as my main design tool, so we already know about that. InVision I kind of gave you a bit of a overview of that a while ago, but we can go back into it. So design better, faster, together. So this is, it's got like an array of tools, hasn't it? So you've got a whole bunch of things. Prototype, craft, specs, freehand. So these are all like the cloud kind of products or features. So you can create cool prototypes. Excuse me. It'll be interesting to test this out actually and see, test this against Figma and see what the designer experience is like. And see if I end up preferring this. I don't know. You got craft, screen design, supercharged. So this looks interesting. Craft is a plugin for sketching and Photoshop that revolutionizes your design process. So, okay, this is a plugin. Craft, yeah, I've heard of that before. Specs, I'm guessing there's another plugin maybe. Okay, this is more about moving from design to development. So I can imagine it's like generating code maybe from designs. I need some more water. This is pretty cool. Freehand, this is cool. This is the kind of tool that like I'd be interested in delving more into. It's kind of similar to how I'm using it right now actually. I'm just using InVision to create things like this, especially just like some nice wireframes of like features, and then going on to create those mock-ups in Figma. So I feel like I've hit a nice flow there, but I kind of want to obviously optimize it a bit more, and I'll do that best by learning these tools in a bit more depth. So InVision is something I definitely want to get better at, look more into, and just see the benefits of the features, and hopefully that will lead to a bit more of like a fluent and quicker design process. Screen design redesigned. This is awesome. just the studio. There's so many things. It's just like, wow. Sometimes I think my head's gonna explode. So this is what I was talking about earlier, the design system manager. The design system platform for collaborative teams. Nice. Envision design system manager connects design and code so teams can work. Yeah, this looks really interesting. I want to use this on a project. Like I said, I just don't know if this will be the one per se. Maybe the next project. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think this is definitely one for more of a future project. Really cool stuff though. Love the stuff Envision are doing. And just some other kind of small, so these are accessibility tools. So Stark, main thing I'm using it for, let's have a look at the features. I'm kind of mainly using it for contrast checker and Figma. So this is just helping me check the contrast at that early design phase. So it's helping me make maybe some decisions on, like, it really helped me actually to come up with a palette for my like error states and success states, to make sure that those colors were accessible. Smart color suggestions, yeah. So it's got colorblind simulations and generators so that you can sort of better understand how someone with, maybe one of various types of color blindness might potentially view your site, and maybe that can influence some decisions on certain tones in your style guide. So yeah, it's cool. It's a very cool plugin. It's just very quick to kind of get that feedback as well, and I'm going to run through how I use that actually in the design file, and how I came up with those certain colors and how it influenced my decisions. So Stark's cool, colorable as well. This is another tool for just quickly testing sort of color contrast. This one, it's a great tool for me just to check it like anywhere. If you just want to check it on any site, or if you, sorry, my network I think maybe is down again, or maybe it's a site. Wow, I'm yawning. Okay, so yeah, colorable is I think we're a bit down there. Let's try another one. Yeah, that's cool, no worries. So colorable is just it just kind of it gives you the ratings. So it gives you whether it's AA, AAA, like it tells you if it fails or passes. It's a great tool. I think in terms of actually, like, when you're getting a bit more down into details of like font sizes, and you want to know if something is adhering to the WCAG guidelines, then I would say something like this, Color Safe or Stark, are just better options in terms of picking a palette. So say if you already have, it doesn't have all the fonts, but maybe you can potentially look at one of these fonts and see if you can find something similar to your font in terms of like size maybe, and or style, and essentially, yeah, you can choose like the font weight as well, which is very helpful. You can choose the font size. So this is like great for specific use cases. Perhaps you want to make sure that something is meeting a specific standard. Let's say, okay, I want my body text to meet, AAA. The background color, will be white, and it's going to give you all of the possible colors that you can actually use that are going to be AAA essentially. As you can see, most of them are more to the darker side of things because they have to be AAA. But if I was to actually say, I'll set up for AA, what you'll see is that when we generate a color palette, okay, I think it's generated it. Let me start over. Okay, I feel like it's just giving me more palettes to work with there. So now you get more like color palettes, and now it kind of, and what's nice is that it shows you when you click, it shows you like the ratio, and it shows you if it passes. And obviously they're all going to pass because we've filtered it so that they all do pass. So like this is a good tool to use as well as like Stark. You can use either of them or both, however you want to do it. So now onto icons. I'm using iron icons. I just like the style, quite nice and simple. Got a couple of logos there, but yeah, I just kind of like some of the base components, and just the look and feel is kind of in line with what I'm going for. So I like iron icons. You got these different type. You got filled as well. I like the filled ones. I think that's usually what I go for. And then we got, lastly but not least, simple icons, which is awesome. I love simple icons, and I found out about them recently. I didn't know how many, what's it called? How many brand icons they had. So like all this time I've been searching. I've been doing so many searches trying to find like this one. Like, I'm trying to find like Chakra UI's like logo to like add to my tools list, and then I literally found it on here, and I was like, wow, all of this time I've been searching through their sites and trying to find this info somehow, and it's just been on here the whole time. So you live and you lose, or you live and you learn, which is probably the correct saying. But this is a cool library, so I'll be using this for any and all of my sort of brand icons when it comes to like tools and socials and things like that. So that's another great tool. So yeah, that's kind of the end of the tooling, and like I said, I'm going to start rounding off. We've definitely gone over time here, but that's cool. Just kind of wanted to kind of get as much info in here as possible, so at least people can kind of get an understanding of what I am doing essentially with this project. So let's have a look. Tools. Sweet. So I'm just going to quickly just jump back into design file. We'll skip the design file tool for today. What we're going to do, we'll go into that. We'll just incorporate that into what we do tomorrow. So let's just look at rounding this off now. So essentially, additional notes. So additional things to note. I'm just trying to think of anything that I had. Bear with me while I look at my design file and see if there's anything else. Yeah, I don't really know what else there is really. I suppose it's just some kind of like notes around things like structure. So obviously I've outlined the general structure and things. Like I said, this is like it's not my first live streaming sort of video, but I'm still very new to it, and this is my first like live coding series essentially. So in terms of structure, I'm not sure how well it's going to end up working out. I need to come a bit more central. I'm not sure how well it's going to end up working out, but we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to kind of just give it my best shot at keeping it as streamlined as possible, and to try and keep the content engaging and as digestible as possible for people that just want to learn or are just interested in what I'm doing. Like I said, we are building a portfolio website of Next.js here, but it's not, Next.js specifically. We're also looking at Chakra UI. So if you're interested in that, there's going to be a lot of learning to be had around that, around Storybook as well, testing, accessibility. If any of these things interest you, then yeah, just feel free to jump in a stream. And if you want to find out about streams, so this is another note, then I'd say the best way is to check out my stream schedule on Twitch. So I can walk you over to that now actually, and I'll just show you how you can find that info. Again, links are going to be in the description on YouTube, that is. So let me jump over to that. Cool. So here we have the schedule. So yeah, make sure that's muted. So if you want to, you can see the nice live thing going on there, which is cool. So yeah, I would say just go over to my Twitch and check out my schedule. So what I'm going to do after each stream, like I said, I'm just going to sort of I'll either there and then inform you of the next day, or if I'm not sure about it, then I'll just tell you just to check here. So I'd say the best way to check regardless is in my schedule, my profile. I'll update this as earliest as I possibly can. I will make sure that I change, add or update any sort of streams at least 24 hours beforehand to give everyone a chance to catch up on things, to catch up on that change or that addition. So yeah, just keep checking back there, I'd say, in terms of finding out about my stream. If you want to learn more about sort of the actual general, like my general channel, and what like my live streams will entail beyond this project, then I'd just say have a look at my about section. Have a look at stream content. I'm going to update these actually. There's a couple of things I need to update here, which I'll be doing between today and tomorrow's stream. Got some chat rules as well, which are just some useful stuff to, just to kind of be aware of. And so feel free to check that out if you want to kind of learn more about what I'm going to be doing on the channel. Additionally, you can check out my YouTube channel as well. So yeah, again, just a small little about section about some of the content you can expect to see here as well, and obviously you can see this going on here. So this is obviously where I have all of the videos kind of end up, and so you can kind of just check back on those and learn about that. Okay, so just kicking my mic all over the place, sorry, my bad. Right, so yeah, that's kind of the notes on that. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not missing out anything. Just kind of think here. Yeah, I think that's really mainly it, to be honest, in terms of like our notes. In terms of contributing, like I've mentioned it a couple of times, I want to really push open source contributions this and encourage people to contribute if they have ideas, if you're interested in what I'm building, and you feel that you have some ideas. I'm going to create a contributing guide just to kind of have some clarity and have a bit of a structure around how to kind of go about contributing. That's just for the sake of clarity, really, just so you understand the easiest way for everybody to kind of contribute, the sort of general like layout of the Git workflow essentially, and like code styling, basic stuff like that, really. Nothing too major, just a kind of short file just to describe all of that stuff. So I'll get working on that again between now and hopefully the next stream. I'll just get that all written up, and then I can link to those kind of resources there. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things I'm going to be getting sorted between now and tomorrow afternoon, which is the next stream. So let me... Oh, this is a nice beat. So let me kind of Oh dear. I'm sorry. I'm doing some crazy stuff in Figma that I'm not meaning to do. Everything's like all over the place in Figma right now. Weird. Right. What's the date today? Sunday 11th. All right. So okay. Okie doke. Okay, so yeah, those are additional notes. Then obviously, I don't know if we've got anyone in here. If there is, hey, I don't know if whoever's in here has caught what we've been talking about. But if there's any questions, feel free to shoot them at me. Even if it's like, who are you? What do you do? I've missed the whole stream, so who are you? Then I can be happy to answer that. But also, even if it's not, I'll kind of try and get to this at the end of each stream, just for anyone that's in there, just to kind of allow for any questions or suggestions and stuff that maybe we didn't get to cover. But if not, even just a reminder to put them in the comments if you've got questions in the comments about something you didn't understand, or I've gone too quick somewhere. If you've got even feedback, suggestions, then feel free to drop those in the comments if you're not in the live stream, but you happen to catch this afterwards. So that's kind of what I'll have at the end of each stream, is just to kind of prompt that. And then outside of this, if you wish to contact me, or just to keep up with me, keep up with what I'm up to, and sort of learn more about me, the best kind of way in terms of any kind of direct communication is probably Twitter. It's probably where I'm most active, away from here anyway. So feel free to drop me a follow on there, and feel free to drop me a DM if you've got any questions or anything you just want to say hi. Feel free to do that there. Obviously, if you would like to check out my projects or some projects that I've worked on, check out my GitHub. You can connect with me on LinkedIn as well, or obviously here on Twitch or here on YouTube, as I'm on both right now. So like I said, for anything stream schedule related, check out my Twitch. I'm also going to be updating stream schedule stuff on Twitter as well. I've actually just started up a live, continuous building public thread about this project, where I'll be posting updates around each stream about just some key points, maybe some key takeaways and stuff like that. So that's me. And so next stream is I need to get this over here. So this is essentially the next stream, which is tomorrow. And that is, I've actually got a bunch of notes here. I need to kind of make it more explicit for those. I can't assume that everybody's in the UK. So 3 p.m. GMT. So this is when the next stream will be. I will try and keep this one to be a bit shorter. And this stream will be looking at my design file. So we'll be running through, I'll give you a quick overview right now. So we'll be running through style guides. So I'll be running through my style guide, the choices behind my color, fonts. We'll be having a look at the component library, how I kind of built these components using Figma features such as variants to create multiple instances of the same component. We'll be looking at sort of how I'm using auto layout to build car components and cool stuff like that. And then let's have a look. We'll be looking at my visual playground, at how I created my components from small little ideas to building them up to be full, fully featured. I don't want to say full functioning, because they're not. They're just they're just the designs. But yeah, fully fleshed out components essentially. So we'll look at how I kind of came up with some very basic ideas and built them out using the auto layout feature in Figma, which is one of its greatest features in my opinion. And we'll look at how that maps to Flexbox as well. So some cool stuff there. All this stuff is just extra. We'll be looking at design inspo and how some of these designs influence the creation of some of the components as well. And lastly, we'll be looking at mocking up. So I've got some mobile and desktop headings there. I've started on just a couple of basic mobile designs. So we'll be looking at how I did this, maybe even recreating it. We'll see how we go, but potentially recreating it, but also definitely extending this as well. And the aim is to try and get at the whole basic homepage built out, at least on the mobile view, and looking at this whole like page container and page wrapper and sort of how things are working, and how how we're working with auto layout to enable this kind of responsive layout essentially. So should be interesting. So anyone that's in here now, or anybody that comes across this and you're interested, feel free to try and catch me here tomorrow. I hope that the connection's been okay. I hope my levels have been alright and it's not too quiet or too loud. But feel free to leave me some feedback in the comments on YouTube, of course, and those will definitely be taken on board. So I actually meant to do a little to-do, but I didn't get around to it. But anyway, we're coming up to 3 hours, which is crazy. I can't believe we're actually 3 hours now. But the time flies. Time does fly. So I can now go, and I can be very satisfied with ticking off the remainder of these. Wow, that feels good. The gratification is real. So you can probably tell by this point I'm tired, guys. So I need to hit bed for sure, and get ready for tomorrow. So bear with me just a moment. I'm just trying to think of so in terms of to-dos, what do we need to do? So we need to, that's weird. So in terms of to-dos for next time, like between now and then, just for the sake of just, transparency, letting everyone know what I'm up to, I'm going to be just working on ensuring that all the channels are up to date with relevant info and stuff like that. I'm also going to clear up the design files a bit, just make it a bit easier to navigate when we come to look at it tomorrow. I think there's a couple of other things I said I was going to do, which if I can't remember now, I'll definitely remember. I hope. Yeah, so I'll get those resources links set up. Yeah, that was it. And something else as well that I think would be cool, depending on, how many people we get in here. And this might not be for tomorrow. It might have to wait till Monday or maybe during the week. Is to set up like a Discord as well, just to allow for, if there's anyone that's interested in the project and perhaps you end up being a bit late to it and you want to catch up on some stuff, or you just want to say hi and maybe discuss some ideas about the project, or suggestions, like whatever it is, or if you just want to chat. I'll be creating a Discord as well, to just allow some space for that. So that's kind of the main to-dos for next time, really. There's not too much on the list. I feel like we've covered quite a lot today. I mean, I hope we have. It's been 3 hours, so I thought I'd just go into depth about everything and make sure that all the bases are covered in terms of understanding what I'm building, which is obviously my portfolio. It's nothing crazy, but why I've chose to kind of live stream the whole thing, the aims of the project, the project structure, my tooling, and just a couple of other notes about streaming. So the last final note about streaming, actually, that I forgot was, I know that this kind of setup's not optimal. You can't see obviously the full screen at all times. My camera quality is not obviously the greatest. I feel like it's kind of doing the job for now. I've actually got one on the way, which is pretty exciting. So it would be cool to get that. But as far as like the quality goes, this is something that will hopefully just be improving as time goes along. This is kind of pretty bare bones right now, but I'm hoping to get some overlays and stuff, and just some other cool small features in there. So as I did say, do bear with me on all of that. And thank you so much, guys, for joining. The people that have joined, no matter how few, I appreciate it all the same. And it's it's going to be cool to really see this come to life and to sort of build this from the ground up. Of course, there's like a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of things to consider, a lot of things to try out for sure. But that's all part of it. That's all part of this learning process. And it's definitely a big step for me to live stream it. And I think a lot of good things can come out of this. I'm just hoping that people can actually come away from this feeling like they've either learned something, or they feel like they've been able to share some knowledge that they have on things. Whatever way that sort of happens, I'll be appreciative of that. So if you guys enjoyed this, found it informative in any way, feel free to drop me a follow if it's on Twitch, or subscribe if it's on YouTube. Drop a like. All of it would be very much appreciated. And I will catch you guys in the next one. So I'll be on tomorrow at 3 p.m. Currently, GMT, so UK time. I'll be roughly streaming probably for about 2 hours max, so between 3 and 5. I would say just keep a lookout maybe on my Twitter. We'll just keep checking the Twitch schedule just in case there's any changes. But it should be 3 p.m. tomorrow. So thanks so much again, guys, and catch you in the next one.